Okay, good. So I thought we would just dive into, I cover big data at the Journal, and I think when we talk about big data, everyone talks about this brave new world of prediction. And of course, there's been lots of interest in Facebook's data mining, Facebook's research into data mining human behavior and what your social network can tell you about your relationships. So I want to hear about LinkedIn's data mining of professional relationships. And my first question to start out is, can LinkedIn tell when I'm about to get hired or fired through analytics?
Top secret question, cannot be answered. It's a great question. I think the LinkedIn data phenomenally powerful. I think we can predict even whether we can create life. That's my personal belief. And to look for whether a person to, let's say, do job seeking, actually by using LinkedIn data, it's very, very easy. Very, very easy. If we forget about all the behaviors, for example, looking for jobs, click on a recruiter's invite. Let's forget about who take a look at any of the job descriptions. Let's just think about if one person through his network from the same company, same team, if this person is leaving, how much likelihood his network within the same team would potential start looking for jobs? Yeah, I think LinkedIn, by using data, we can predict that.
Yeah, what kind of patterns would I show?
That's another good question. Actually, so fundamentally, human behavior is very, very consistent. I would say, number one, basics. People move from okay company to better companies. That's always happened every single day. We saw that people migrate from good companies to better companies, okay companies to good companies all the time. And that's the pattern number one. Pattern number two, people stay with great managers. We found that out. We found out that people stay in the company, when they get promoted, when they develop their career, when they grow with the company together. That's another pattern we can see from data. Very consistent and precise.
So you can look at which managers are well liked, which aren't just by the amount of time that I stay with a manager?
Yeah, we just take a look at how many promotions they have, let's say during their career within the same company. And then, and also by using LinkedIn data, we can almost predict the internal professional network and then figure out the potential org structure. So that's why we can figure out, who are potential their managers. Yeah, it's not rocket science, but it's interesting and phenomenal data science for us.
Yeah, tell us about the tool. That was the Ruth Elliott from Tableau. So tell me about the tools that you use to visualize this data.
Good. About three.
And also to manage it.
Yeah, totally. About 4 years ago, I think I joined LinkedIn for about 4+ years. The first year, we used some traditional BI solutions to visualize the data insights. The learning we had was it just like what Tom shared in the morning. It's just too slow, And at that moment, we have a sales group. Let's say we have 200 people. Every week, we might have 20 people access, we call data insight system within the team. So the things the change we made is about 3.5 years ago, and we introduced Tableau as a visualization tool. Because at LinkedIn, analytics internally, we strongly believe wisdom is what people hear and what people see. Wisdom is people hear and see. What people see is very important to help people to make quicker and better decisions. And then we introduced Tableau. We use Tableau to connect to our massive, data from the backend. We provide a very simple and easy graph by using Tableau as a tool. And then we give this data insight to a lot of salespeople, within minutes and seconds, but not months or weeks. So it completely changed, the way we do business, behind the scene by using data. And then, we accelerate our business growth quite a bit after doing that.
Ellie, obviously, one of the biggest trends right now in big data is visualization there's a lot of competition. When Tableau started over 10 years ago, there wasn't as much. Now everybody's making infographics. Everybody's trying to do that. So how has the landscape changed? And yeah, what does that mean? What does that mean for Tableau?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the interesting thing about visualization is it used to be kind of something you do alongside data analysis, and I think it's really become a tool that you want to use for the masses. I mean, people are visual for the most part, and the way that we deal with data and process data is a visual way, and we've seen that in information science. And so what's really interesting about visualization is it's gone from a few specialists or a few people who really believe in it to kind of the mass across an organization. And so you find people that wouldn't normally use data. Like, for example, salespeople, as Simon said, you don't think of the normal salesperson as a data geek or a data head. But when you can arm a salesperson with data about their customer so that they can go in and have a conversation that's more than, what are you going to buy next, how much does it cost, it transitions to a conversation about, let's look at how you're using our product. Let's look at how you can get more value from it. Let's look at some of the patterns here. And it's a much richer conversation. And I think it really helps salespeople build a relationship with the customer and add value, which is ultimately what they want to do. So to me, the big change in visualization is seeing the proliferation of visualization of people you normally wouldn't think of as visualizers, whether it be salespeople. We see teachers, surgeons, doctors. We see game designers, people designing interactive games using data that improve those games. And that's really been exciting to see.
Yeah, that was something we were talking about earlier that really interested me, which is you think about how organizations, whether it's schools or hospitals or tech companies, have more and more data than they've ever had. And so the need to understand it and see it becomes more important. It was interesting to me that you told me that like high schools, high school principals use visualization tools. How many do that, and what kind of things do they see?
We have a number of high schools using it, a number of charter schools in California. One really interesting case that's on our website is at Spokane Public Schools. They put together a predictive model about when kids were going to drop out. And schools actually have a lot of data, and they're not that dissimilar from companies in that data sits in a lot of places. They have a grading system and a teacher system and an attendance system. And what they did was they did some work to figure out, well, if you start skipping this number of classes when you're a sophomore and you fail at least one class when you're a freshman, 2 or 3 years later, you're at a very high likelihood to drop out. And they knew what these factors were. The problem was the data sat in a number of different places. So what they did was they used Tableau to bring together data from a lot of different systems and build a predictive model of when a student was going to drop out. And what they saw, as you might expect, is typically there's something that happens in a student's life that causes them to start going down the wrong path. Now, the dropout event might not happen until 2 years later, but if they can intervene when a student starts showing these warning signs, they can provide some counseling and bring that student back on board.
Oh, that's totally fascinating. I think one of the questions that people here want to know about, and I always think about as a reporter, is whether all this analytics drives revenue and drives ROI. And so Simon, earlier we were talking about some of the cool things in LinkedIn's analytics, and I'd like to know about how that actually drives connections that drive business for LinkedIn. One anecdote you shared that was very cool was about LinkedIn is in 200 countries, and so lots of LinkedIn pages are in different languages. And so how do you talk to someone, you want to do business overseas, how do you talk to someone who may be your counterpart, but you may not know it?
Great. So to answer this question, how many folks here know what the data standardization means? Data mapping, data massaging. Great. Actually, the data itself is always have a data quality issue, right? And the traditional way, we target people. We use their title, their location, their functions, which industry they're in, so which ranking, of them, in the company ecosystem. And however, after we have this professional social network data, we can almost skip a lot of this type of information, and then can focus on targeting method better. One example I can give is we did some analysis. We found out by using only one variable we call the connections, we can almost cluster a company's organizations into different clusters. For example, we found out may I use Tableau as an example?
Sure.
Yeah. We found out in the Tableau, as employees, a certain level, the salespeople cluster together, marketers cluster together, engineers cluster together, and the CEOs, they are in the centers of the gravity of the company, right? Christian and Chris, for example. By using this data, we can almost skip, a lot of data massage, data mapping, and data pipeline. Directly talk to, the right people in the right way. So by using social network data. Second is, at LinkedIn, we use data generate a lot of revenue from the back end. One quick example I can give everyone is we have a concept called social selling concept, right? By using data, we can predict each company how much they will spend on LinkedIn for each product line every year. Second, we predict which person in that company would make a decision to buy. Number three, we analyze our internal salespeople network to find out who has the strongest influence to that person who could buy LinkedIn product. Number four, we analyze our whole internal LinkedIn salespeople's network to find out who can help this salesperson to close the deal by using their network. Number five, we can use LinkedIn data to weave a beautiful and a compelling selling story about that account or prospect, why they need to buy LinkedIn solutions. Everything, like I said, the whole flow, I think we can achieve that as today within 3 minutes. I'm very confident to say that. Because the system every day, almost 100% of salespeople are using this on a weekly or monthly basis. So that's the story I have to share.
So the tool helps you understand who's the decision maker within a company?
Yeah. And typically, and also we found out, very interesting, decision maker for the company only might not have the highest likelihood to buy. Typically, the people who can make decision, but also use LinkedIn, they have the highest likelihood to purchase LinkedIn solutions.
It's fascinating. And what about me? So I'm a journalist on LinkedIn, and all my colleagues are journalists. What if I want to reach people outside of journalism? I want to move into a new field, or how do all engineers, they want to reach people outside who are non-engineers? How can the tool target and guide them?
This is a very interesting one. At LinkedIn, I think, so what I shared, that's what's been built 3.5 years ago. Actually, LinkedIn introduced a new part, to help people, connect with new, let's say, business opportunities. And then I think we can use either organizers and tools to help you to connect with the right people through the right channel. Because one biggest learning at LinkedIn, we learned through the right relationship, we have much higher conversion rate, than the wrong relationship. Even we connected, let's say, Simon to John, the same two people through different network connections, we see very different results. So, and if you like to connect with some people, just find out who has the strongest influence to that person, and then let him or her to make the intro for you. That would be helpful. Okay.
I have one last question, and then I want to open it up to questions. There's a lot of talk about tech bubble, obviously, and one thing I think is quite relevant here is that you both manage teams. So you manage a team of sales and biz dev people, right? And
yes.
And you manage engineers and data scientists. So how is with the changes in Silicon Valley, is it harder or easier to hire engineers? How does it change the competition for people who have to work with data science and designers, in your case, for visualization tools?
It's definitely a challenging hiring environment out there. I mean, at Tableau, we really, this is going to sound a little bit cheesy, but we really are a mission-driven company. We're also a public company. We're a for-profit company, but we're a bunch of data geeks, and we care passionately about data. And so we hire for that. And for people that think that data is important and can be an important part of the conversation in the public sphere and can help companies be more profitable, we're able to connect with those people. I'm not going to say that hiring isn't always a challenge, but we tend to hire on that as much as anything, and we've had a lot of success with that.
Great. From LinkedIn perspective, I think LinkedIn and Facebook, several years ago, we kind of created the data science this type of positions in the valley. I think hiring for LinkedIn is difficult, but also easy. Very difficult and very easy. Typically, in our group, we have a